Okay, so you were saying?
I was saying, okay, the wall. That's Rachel Lazarus. Up there, those two up there, that's Lydia Fortner. That's my main teacher, Janani. And this was taken in Venice Beach at the old, there was a store in the, what they call a gingerbread court. And I was in there shopping in Ansuya, and Janani came up behind me and surprised me. This is Bela Zena. She's retired now, but she won just about every award you could win at one time, and there was also a judge at Belly Dancer of the Year. These are my very first castanets and my very first ballet slippers, my very first set of zills, and my very first toe shoes.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
But then, we go through the progressions of groups from the 70s, and then that's from Fair, and we did Fair. And then here's the magic map, and if anyone wants one of these, it came in National Geographic, July 1972. And you go to a used bookstore, and some people have actually found this map inside that National Geographic. Just different progressions of pictures. When my hair was layered. The stinky pencil board. And that's a sign I stole from a job that I did. I've done lots of jobs with Richard Hagopian. In fact, here's a picture of me with Richard Hagopian and a local canoeist, Jim Karagosian. Has some albums out of his own, and he's with a group called Barrage, mostly Armenian music. And this is also from Fair, and that's Amy Holloway. She just took Davila's makeup class last weekend. And this is the Magic Corner.
The Magic Corner.
The Magic Corner. And that's a picture that came out of my mother's kitchen because I would never have anything that made that big of me. So when my mother passed away, I inherited a lot of stuff that she had. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And let's see here. This is the second mirror because it's an AMCAP studio. We face both ways.
Right. That is something I very much appreciate.
It messes some people up, but they get used to it after a while.
Sure.
And I talk about this all the time. There's all my vinyl. And it's all categorized if it's Egyptian or Greek or Arabic, or if it's Joded or Uzel, or then the turntable. And I wanted to let everybody know, if we have to get a modern turntable, make sure you get a preamp, because new turntables don't come with amps like they used to.
Oh.
Yeah, because most people who use amps hook them up to a system anyway, like a DJ.
So I was going to ask, because you performed last week to Live at the Fed.
Yes.
So you did do the vinyl. Yeah, because when I looked at it, when I tried to find it on Amazon, they only had the vinyl.
You buy this from Roxanne Shalabi, and she'll send you the download.
Yay! And there's our Roxanne mention.
There's our Roxanne mention.
That's Roxanne mention, yeah.
We realized that we tend to talk a lot about Roxanne.
Yes, I thought I had my
Adrienne.
DVD out here, but it's not out here. But yes, when you're with Roxanne, get the music and get the DVD because it's dance history. So let me see what else we got here.
Just so much history. It's so cool.
We used to do Safari Night at the zoo, which was a lot of fun. But then they got real, I don't know, they wanted to make it more family-like. So they got rid of us, but the corporations used to bring in their people and say, oh, we got to go back to the reptile house because the belly dancers are back there and they're so much fun. And this is my Legends keepsake.
Yes. The quintessential Zara.
When I was on the cover of Habibi.
Oh, neat.
And when we did the Camel Cosmo parties, which I got some flack for because it was about tobacco, but you know what? They came to town, they wanted to do it, it's paying $20 an hour, no one else wanted the job, our girls took it, and one girl had really bad asthma, and she says, I made some money off of tobacco.
There you go.
All these curtains close. If we do a performance, you have a backdrop, and I closed this curtain up to it when I did my set for you guys.
Perform for us.
And some of these things came out of Culver City where I grew up, and then my mother had taken them to Laguna Woods with her, and then they came back here when she passed away. So my washer and dryer are back there.
That's important. That's important.
That's the important stuff. So that's just sort of the lay of the land here.
That's cool.
And it has evolved over the years.
Hi, welcome to Raqs Talks. I'm Faiza,
I'm Farazan.
and today we have the legendary, I love to just say legendary, Cory Zamora. You may remember her from our Spotlight performance. She was absolutely enchanting, and so we, of course, wanted to talk to her. We wanted to talk to her even before that, but we're super excited to have her.
You know, Cory, I'd heard of you before just because, you know, Faiz is one of your students and you're a legend, but I was just so taken with you when I got to take the Legends class with you last year. I didn't make it to the original interview, but I had to make a joke about myself being a pro clutcher. You're just so fearless when you attack the material, and you're like, yep, and the 9/8 over on the East Coast, that's how they found out how they were making the rest of the money for the evening. And I was like, sex work! I don't want to be a sex worker! We're after a 9/8! And then you're like, okay, calm down.
Settle down.
You know, a little about that. Last year at Legends, they asked me to teach what you do for different places. So I had her put chairs around the floor, and I put little labels on them. Family, table of family, drunk guy, birthday guy, woman hates you. And took them around these table situations to show them how they would react and what to do with them. So yes, that's why we had some pearl clutchers. I've had women who'd say, here honey, here's $10, make him happy so I'm happy when we get home. And then I've had a lady who threw a big tall tiki drink at my feet and the glass shattered all over the place. So you know, it runs the gamut. You never know, but if you've never worked these circumstances, you don't know. So I took them through every situation that I could think of that they would fall into.
So, what would you say was your strangest moment performing? I know there's a lot to sort through.
Yeah. You know, I have found that different cultures respond to you differently. I used to do Hmong New Year's, and they didn't want you to leave the stage, but the people in charge didn't, but the people watching did want you to leave the stage. So everybody has a different thing. People who ask you, we had certain things we used to do to people during their birthdays, a set little list of things, and we actually got hired because they knew we did these things. And you'd get to a party and they go, oh yeah, you get to blah, 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 blah. And I'm gonna put extra money in your envelope. And then there was this one woman, no, I don't want that, and you better not do that. Well, there was like this whole group of people over here that had hired for that, they knew. So when I got done, she had taken the money, the tip out of the envelope. So, you know, there was just, but she wasn't the one that hired me. That's something else you have to learn too, is if someone calls you up mysteriously and tries to cancel a gig, always make sure that's who hired you, because I've had family members, restaurant managers, all kinds of people pretend they're the person and call it and cancel you.
Oh my gosh.
It's just weird, but this is a strange place. This is a wonderful place to be because of all the ethnicities that live here and the music that I have learned throughout the years and all the bands and the musicians I got to work with. But then again, it's a very strange, they call it the Bible Belt of California. So you've got this contrasting things going on. But you get deep into the people of the culture, and when you come out, then you remember there's other people out there. So it's, yeah, it was a great learning experience. A lot of people go, I'm so sorry you got stuck in Fresno. And I go, well, you know, I think it was meant to be because I learned so much, worked with so many people, so many different groups, different tribes from Armenia. There was this one tribe, darker skinned people who had a drum, and they had brought this drum from the old country, and they met out somewhere by a river every year and made this big pot of meat thing. I'm sure it has a name, and I've forgotten now. And they would bang on this drum, and they were just so intensely more desert-like.
Okay.
More Araby, you know, and then I get the Armenians that you can't even play anything Turkish, and then I get the Armenians that were raised with Turkish people. They want all the music Turkish, and I'm allowed to have a singer. So it's crazy here. You have to know so much, or you can get in trouble. You can get in trouble.
That's so interesting, because I have never ever known any Armenians ever to be okay with Turkish music. So that's fascinating.
Yes, they were raised in a part of Armenia that was more Turkish, and it was his birthday, and I did a veil dance to a song. John Belazichin does it too, and it was John Belazichin's grandmother's favorite song. And this guy ran from the back of the banquet hall, stood next to the stage, and sang along with it.
Oh my
He
God.
remembered it from his childhood and loved that song.
That sounds like a magical moment.
It was very magical.
Oh
And, you know, you get all kinds of things. So there's bad things that happen that you go, ugh.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
there's good things that happen. Then there's odd things that happen. You're dancing for a guy's birthday and he's sitting in a chair in the yard by the pool and he's got this can of beer, and the next thing you know, he sat the beer down in the chair and he's out there dancing. So I picked up the beer and I sat in the chair and I watched him.
I would have done the same.
When I left, his little son says, "Daddy, I want her for my birthday too."
Oh,
So cute. That's, you know, it's just different. The venue, the people, the circumstance. Persian people wanting a shamadan because it's candles and it's a birthday. Okay. You know, you just, there I am dancing to Badak Bad instead of a czar, you know,
Right.
but there it is. It is what it is. And you have to know all this. If you get locked into one just, I'm only a this dancer, only a that dancer, and you live in a very diverse community of people who are going to hire you, you can get into some trouble.
I'm going to just plug American Cabaret once
I was
again.
gonna say.
That's one of the beautiful things about American Cabaret is it does require you to be a jack of all trades.
Right.
And you may be a master of none, but you still can be proficient in all of them, even if you're not going to be the person that everyone goes to specifically for Saidi or whatever. You can still perform for Persians and Turkish people and Arabs and so that's...
And then there's different Arabs, you know, if you...
Right.
Yes.
If you're doing a cane for Egyptian people, you have to wear this and you have to do that. But if you're doing it for Lebanese people, it's so much more fun. But I always start my cane off with the traditional Egyptian entrance. It has to be overhead. That's the first action of the cane, the knee up, all that. But then I get more Lebanese and I go, and I just always remember when Ali retired, she says one of the last things that put her over the edge was seeing a cane done to a debki. And Roxana Shalabi and I go, we've been doing that for 40 years. That's what we do. It's a different kind of Arab.
Right.
It's a different kind of cane. It's still a cane, you know, but it's just done to debki. And people don't know that, but when I always say, the only thing American about American Cabaret is it happened in America.
Yep.
And it is what it is because the bands came from specific places and they didn't know anything about the other person's music. Everybody assumes it's all the same, you know? Everybody assumes it's all the same. It's not.
Well, Americans.
Okay. The Lebanese guy knew nothing about the Algerians' music. We had Sadoun Al-Bayati. He put that hecha in the Fez routine. Now at the time we didn't have any dancers to show us what to do, but we knew it was a tek doom, so we altered our steps. But then now we've got Sarah, and she teaches Iraqi dance. So we learn as we pick up as we go along. So you have 13 cultures and countries to get your music from, and not only is it diverse for the viewer, your brain stays more active. You don't get burned out. You're not using one part of your body like playing tennis or something over and over again on one side. You're using both sides of your body so you can go both directions because you have to react to the music. And that's another thing. We can't choreograph. We didn't even know what they were going to play. They didn't even know what the other one was going to play. And they would argue about it. In the middle of the set, they would argue about what they're going to play next. You know, that's sort of where standing Taksim came from sometimes, and you just sort of wait for figure it out and then you join in. But I always say, if you don't know the song, kind of lay low for the first verse, snap it in your head, and then come back strong for the second and the third.
Now, something that you had said a few years ago really stuck with me and kind of was brought back to me recently. You had described American Cabaret as a format more than a specific style. And I had always envisioned American Cabaret kind of very specific stylings that were heavily influenced by, you know, like Turkish dance more so than, you know,
It's
Egyptian.
always the same format, so to speak. And I don't like calling it a format because we don't have a format. It just happens to be how the musicians put the music together back then, and we just still do it now.
Right.
But the style depends on if you're doing a Turkish, if you're doing a Lebanese, if you're doing an Egyptian. It depends, then it changes. Because if you had said, if I had done instead of the Fez, done a Live for the Seventh Veil, the music's totally different. It ends in a 9/8. So, you know, it's just
right.
And there's a different style, but the same format. And the one thing that I love to do is and I don't get to do this very often, take the format and put it into very different types of modern music. You know, like open with Rammstein.
I was gonna say, you have Metal Mondays, don't you?
I once a year I have a Metal Monday, but Du Hast is one of my favorite things to go to, and it always blows everybody's minds, and I zill to it and everything. But you know, and then I'll take a Poison song for Veil, and then Cinderella for the Floor. I mean, and it just, you know what helps is people grew up with some of this music, and they understand it, and then they can take the understanding over, because metal is very intricate, like classical music, which is where I started, because I was in ballet and I sang opera. So it's very, it's got sections within the song itself, and then you've got a guitar solo, which is like a talk scene. So I find that the dancers who have some kind of background of rock or metal or anything like that, they get to the music better, and it's intricate and it's layered. And that's the other thing. The Fez is, I think, 19 minutes long, 16, 19 minutes long.
I think they're about 19.
You learn to pace yourself. So you have to listen to the music and learn when to take it the slow. So there's layers of music. And on top, the singer can just be wailing. But way back there's some kind of drone in the background. And you need to stop and let your audience rest too, because you're wearing them out. So you want to follow that drone for a while. The zills still follow the fast, but your body's following it slow. And that paces your heartbeat and everything else down as well. It depicts the music better too. And maybe somebody will go, wow, I never heard the drone in that before. That's awesome. So you're bringing things to people's attention. I always said a deaf person should be able to see the music in your dance.
Cory, can I just ask, because, you know, one of the other American cabaret dancers that we had on this show is Laura Lale. Now, her teacher is Alexandra King, so she has an incredibly Turkish-focused background.
And see, Alexandra King and I both took from Janani Radhor. So that's very interesting, because...
And is Janani your first belly dance teacher?
No, actually my first teacher was Laura Best, who no one really seems to know, but she also danced at the Fez.
Okay.
And she was the girlfriend of Sirhan's brother. Adil Sirhan used to be an Udis at the Fez.
Yeah, yes.
So anyway, Laura was my first teacher, and then she went to Manila for a while, and I went with Janani, and then with Janani I took Sword and Cane from Feiruz Aram. And then I got moved to Fresno, and then it was pretty much on my own with what I knew and what I learned and what I picked up here and there and all around. But when I came here, you know, I had, like I said, I had all these different bands, Syrian bands. Richard Hagopian's just 20 minutes down the road. I mean, and I just learned so much from being around the people. But yeah, we're always learning, always learning. And when the cultures change, you got to change with them. One of my favorite things to do when I do house parties, like we do house parties now, but there's a wonderful guy put out a whole set of CDs, DJ Nader.
Oh yeah.
And he takes like a really old song Sadun Al-Bayati did and puts a house beat to it.
Right.
So you take it to this party and grandpa loves it and the kids love it and everybody gets it. So you have to bring it where people are going to say, oh, that's interesting, I want to know about it. Sometimes you keep things too far in the past and, oh, that's just old and I don't care. But it is where everybody came from, because when they came to America and they got their restaurants going and they got their entertainment going, this is what we did. So this is basically the roots of so much of what's being done, and nobody knows. You know, when I first started, when the fusions first started, they'd look at you and go, oh, well, you're just a cabaret dancer. You don't know much and you just dance for men. I'm going, what? Yeah, so it was just, okay, whatever. And then one time somebody said, oh, I heard you're a cabaret dancer. That means you travel. I went, I get on a plane, a boat, a train, what? And then I learned later that they don't use all the space. It's all in one space. So that's what she meant. And she had been taught that cabaret dancers travel. But in the old Silk Road setting, you're in a circle around a campfire, so to speak.
Right.
You want to join, or they're drumming, you get up to dance, and you want to go to all around and bring everybody into it.
Yes.
You are. It's so different. The mindset nowadays is, oh, I'm allowing you to look at me. No, it's I'm here to bring everyone together to look at each other and enjoy one another. It's not about me.
Right.
I used to think the only time anything's about me is when I dance, but it's not even about me when I dance. No, it's about the music, the audience. You're bringing something to life. You know, so in essence, really, it's never in life. Nothing is ever really just about you. Ever.
It's true. It's true. And the performers, for me personally, the ones that I enjoy the most are the ones that are like, not me, but are performing for me,
Right.
and not just
looking into your eyes and,
Yeah,
and
like-
bringing you in and making them feel with you
Yes.
what you feel.
that's the only way you're going to experience Tato.
Some people don't quite understand that, but when I find someone who doesn't get that, I say, have you ever sang in a choir with a group of people? And if they have, you remember all the vibes of the people, the voices and the mingling of the different the tenor section, the bass section, the sopranos, and it all comes together, and you get the hair on your arm kind of comes up. And that's the best way I can describe it to somebody that doesn't really know or has not experienced that.
Yeah, for me, it's as a religious person, it's kind of that experience of like when you feel God. It seems that there is a difference in interpretation of what American Cabaret is here on the West Coast as opposed to other, because there was a teacher that I really admire, and she was like, I'm taking this section of music and we're going to interpret it in Egyptian style, and we'll do this little choreography if we're going to do a strict Egyptian style, and then we're also going to do an American Cabaret styling to this same section of music, just so you see like the two different stylings. And I thought that was kind of a cool idea, but when she got to the American Cabaret section, I was like, that's not American Cabaret. Like from my understanding and my practice of it, I was like, that's cool, but that's not how I would interpret this as an American Cabaret dancer, aside from the fact that I generally don't consider American Cabaret to be choreographed.
No, it's not.
So that was
If you don't know what they're going to play, there's no way you can choreograph it.
another thing. But then it was pointed out to me that may have been because she's from a different region, and so her idea of what American Cabaret is different from what we consider.
A lot of people think you just change your costume because we have specific costumes and there's specific reasons why we have those costumes the way they are. If anyone saw my performance last Friday, you notice that the front of the belt has a V and the back of the belt covers both your cheeks. Because back when this all started, and I still have a few of them, our skirts were chiffon. You could see through them.
Right.
And the V in the front held it down and the thing in the back held it down, plus they're pinned. But more than that, the way they're cut, you have to have them cut the way they are because we do floor work. You cannot do floor work in something that wraps around you like a sarong, that's got ruching in it. You have to have your leg, so they always come up high and sort of fit like a bikini would, because you have to have that freedom on the floor. And we don't wear dresses because we do veil ties. And I couldn't handle all that stuff on me anyway. But our costumes are in halves. There's a front half and a back half, and that way your centers are always matched up. So that it's also when you were of age where you had monthly things happen, you had, I'm on my period hooks and I'm not on my period hooks, so you have these hooks. But I also wear underneath it a flesh colored G-string, which Keisha Smith makes for me. And I pin everything together. So on the back of the belt is a ribbon about this wide. It's sewn on both ends, and I call it the pin bar. And Joellen from Saha, I learned it from her. Her son's Gregory, he's danced with me for 1,000 years. So you take a big pin and you go in and go through the G-string, the skirt, the top of the skirt.
The casing.
No, I don't use elastic.
Oh,
Mine are
okay.
gathered and put on a ribbon.
Waistband?
Yeah, waistband, a permanent band. They're not elastic, so there's nothing
okay.
bunched up under you. And then through this ribbon, and it holds everything in place, front and back. So that's what the rest of that all going on is. But yes, we have fronts and backs because we have the V and then the thing that covers your butt. But they think, oh, you can do any dance and it'll be what it is because you changed the costume. So in essence, like you're doing the lady's first Egyptian dance, but you put on a cabaret American cabaret costume instead, and now all of a sudden it's cabaret, but it's the same Egyptian choreography.
Right.
Yeah, so you can't just change up the costume, it's a whole different mindset.
People used to think that about tribal back when I was first starting, and I was starting to kind of understand the differences, and I remember a dance dancer was like, you just changed your costume and now you're doing, and I'm like,
No.
no, you don't. There's like, your carriage is very different even.
I heard from one of my dancers who is an ATS dancer that several of the girls, and I think maybe even the leader of their group, is having issues with the shoulders because they never do anything with the shoulders. Nothing's supposed to be higher than the shoulders, something like that.
Right.
And
So
they get issues back here. But doing other styles to loosen things up. When I get ATS and fusion dancers in here, it takes me a while, and then I have them roll the marble. Put the marble here, roll it down there, roll it back, roll it back, roll it back. Okay, let's get this rolling, Come on, let's get these going. So after a while, but it's the skill of the dancer to say, I'm doing ATS, the shoulders don't move. I'm doing American Cabaret, I can do this. A lot of things are named differently, but it's usually the same thing, which is you just have to learn from one another. I think that's where follow the bouncing butt comes in, because when people don't speak your language, you have to just pretty much follow them. You brought up something about different areas having different types of cabaret, and I have a funny story. My cabaret sister in New York is Layla Mary, who is she took over, she's like the Serena there now, and she does all the stuff for Serena Studios at Belly Dance America. And we were talking once, and I said something about zills and this piece of music, and she says, well, I guess you never worked with Arab bands. And I said, worked with lots of Arab bands. Well, come to find out, in New York, they, at the time, I don't think this is back in the day, they only considered, they didn't think of Sagat, it was all zills, it's Turkish. So if you went to a gig and there was an Arab band, they say, just don't even bring the zills, don't even bring those things. They didn't allow you to play them. Whereas here and in LA, if you didn't play, you don't work.
Yeah. So Ben,
did they have Sagat players like as part of the orchestra?
I don't know. I'm sure I'll hear about it after this interview, but and then Janani, who taught me about the 9/8 and such, she's from Boston, I believe, but came to that part of the East Coast. So yes, there are things different. Janani used to tell great stories about the Turkish dancers who came over to work on visas, and they sewed all their money into their clothing to take the train to the next venue. Yeah. And their skirts were the big circle skirts like we still wear to this day, but they were made out of felt. So it had a Sufi feel to it there.
Yeah. Well, because they would still go up while still having their money in them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But I get a class that knows how to dance and have been with me a long time. It's always wonderful when I get that class and I go, oh, now I can cut loose. And they don't know how to follow me and do all this stuff. And you get beginners, and if I have too many beginners in a week, I start getting, it's like that one-sided tennis arm again. So you need a class to break it up where you can just dance. And but I love teaching beginners. I love teaching all levels. I love coaching. I love working with people with disabilities. I work with blind people, deaf people. I had 2 ladies who were a study at Fresno State on obesity, and they loved the dance so much after the study was over with and their teacher left, they came here, and I taught them to dance from their bones. Dance from your bone. And that helped them so much to think that it was the bone, the inner side that was moving them. So I've worked with people who had all types of surgeries, arthritis, and it's not just older people that have things. When I did these belly dance for senior citizens, some lady slammed me on the gilded serpent saying, well, why didn't you talk about arthritis? Why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you talk about that? And I go, I've met people 20 years old that had more disabilities than the women in this, Yeah. It doesn't, these things, it's like with the virus. It doesn't know what age you are.
Right, doesn't care.
It doesn't care. Disabilities are disabilities. People who've had car accidents. People come here who don't even particularly want to dance. They just want to be able to move again.
Yeah.
And I had one lady come in, she says, I'm not allowed to go backpacking anymore because I don't keep up with them. I'm not balanced, and so I worked with her and she's backpacking. I teach lots of men. I know there are some dancers out there that refuse to teach men, absolutely will not. They think, oh, they're just coming to class because they want to look at the ladies. If they're dancing, they're not looking at the ladies, and most of the men that I've taught wouldn't be looking at the ladies anyway. But I have veil ties for them, so they don't have to wear a man bra or anything. So yes, the costuming is important, and some people wonder why I use the veils I do. First of all, the veil ties and the way we use a veil really doesn't work with silk, and if you took my workshop in Kansas, you will remember that I got stuck with a silk veil at the very end, and I sucked very badly.
Oh no.
Oh, it was so funny. So 39 people now get to go out in the world and tell everybody how Cory Zamora sucked with a silk veil, but that's okay.
I doubt that.
It's like wet toilet paper for me. But some of the music in the veil sections were long, like 5 minutes of music. The song Cairo, or even an extended version of Miserlou, and I'm going, I have this chiffon veil on. They've already seen me sit through it. Why am I taking 5 minutes to take it off, and they've already seen through it? And then when we started doing more telegrams was during the first, one of the first Middle Eastern wars. I think it was Desert Storm, I don't know, but being covered like that got me to the venue more safely through the parking lot. So, and I love the weight of the fabric. I love the way it moves in the air, and I've always stuck with it. And it's always 4 yards, and everybody goes, "You're only 5 foot. How can you use 4 yards?" Well, I do.
Well, I do.
I figure it out.
So the costuming is very important. But as you brought out, just because I have on this costume doesn't mean I'm a cabaret dancer. I never realized, put all the parts together until Roxanne got in touch with me to do the interview for the Fez documentary, and I danced at the fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I first saw Middle Eastern dance when I was 21, was I was taken to the Fez for my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
So everything in my head is Lebanese.
Right.
You know, but that's sort of like at a crossroads. So it all kind of went there and gelled in Eastern Europe. So it makes sense to me now, and that the way things are diverse.
So is that how you decided to start belly dancing? Was after going to the Fez?
I had always wanted to see belly dancing. I grew up in Culver City, and my father was an Elk, and once a year they had an Armenian night, and they brought belly dancers, and I don't know where they were from. And I've often thought maybe some of them are still around, and did they even dance at the Elks Club in Culver City? And I never was allowed to go, of course, because I was a kid. My mother, they just stand up there and move their bellies and kind of music. And I went. So when I was 21, they asked.
That's all I do.
And I had danced all my life since I was 3, and it was always choreographed. It always involved shoes. It was always just. So I went to the Fez. They took me to the Fez, and I went, beep, no shoes. There can't be choreography because
you don't know
the
what
musicians just change seats and stuff, and it's all different, you know. So I was hooked, and so I went home. I was living in North Hollywood at the time, and I ended up going down the street to Colfax and Magnolia to the Dance Center West, something like that, and Laura Best was teaching there. And as I said, when she went to Middle, then I went to with Janani, and she lived out near Riverside at the time and owned a studio with Fairuz called Chandrinka, I believe. And they used to dance at the Apadana. In fact, the last time I saw Fairuz dance was at the Apadana, and Aunt Studio was 3 days away from being born.
Oh my God.
My last private with Janani was 3 days before. So it's all kind of bizarre, but so.
Well, that's one of my favorite things to do is to trace the heritage. Like when we were talking about Diane Weber before, and you know, we're saying like, well, and she taught so and so, who taught so and so, who taught so and so,
Right.
and like being able to say like, okay, so she taught Anahid, and then Anahid taught this person, and this person, and that person, and like just being able to see, especially like within our community.
Yes.
Where, and it makes sense too, because people be like, God, you know, she dances like, well, she's like with Zara. Oh, like, it's just being, but like, and people who are just like crazy on Zills, she learned from Cory. Like being able to do
I can
that.
always tell, actually. I've gotten really good at being able to tell who your students are. Like if I see somebody that I've never seen before, I'm always like, who's your teacher? And they're like, Cory Zamora. I'm like, I knew it. And the biggest giveaway, of course, is that they're proficient on Zills. So what's the future of Cory Zamora?
So in September, from the 7th, the week of the 7th, we have California Legends, and it used to be LA Legends of Belly Dance. And when the new owners took over the dance garden, they expanded it to California Legends. Now, what I really like about this is that it's being done virtually. So those who have always wanted to go,
Right.
the years I've taught this, they don't have to worry about an airplane or restaurants or a hotel. They can take these classes and get their education. So I like what's happening because now everything we're doing is opened up to so many. I did a veil workshop, and a dancer from California happened to be in Morocco at the time. And she got up, I don't know what time it was in Morocco, but she attended my workshop that started at noon here. And I was like, wow, you know.
What are you teaching in the Legends intensive?
I am taking everyone through an actual AMCAB set, explaining what it is, why the sections are what they are. It's sort of like my whole PDF brought to life.
Right.
And at the end, we're all going to do a set together. Actually, this Zoom thing and you nice ladies bringing me more out to the top of the foam, so to speak. I just hope more people will come to me for what I know. For Zill's floor, AMCAB things in particular, the veil ties. I just want people to know it's out there, that I'm here, available. I do one-on-ones through this virus. If I know you and I know where you've been, I will do one-on-ones in here. I have done one-on-ones masked. I do anything on Zoom. I always do a Pacific Standard Time because I also have all this other stuff I have to do. But the future of me, I hope to perform for special things like I did for you. Not running off to air. I don't do festivals anymore unless I'm in an evening show. I'm not going to be doing anything like that. I'm well equipped here to do whatever I need to do, so that kind of keeps me focused on home base. I'm in the middle of the state, so I can go anywhere or anybody can get to me. Before the virus, I had weekend intensives, and either people stayed at a hotel by the airport, or this opens to a bed, and they stayed here. And we did 2-day intensive. They fly in, they fly out. So there's all kinds of things that can happen if things change or there's a new normal, but I'm very comfortable with Zoom. I work very well with it.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was Raqs Talks, and we just really enjoyed our time with Cory Zamora.
They made it rock.
Yay! So join us next time. I'm Faiza.
I'm Parazad. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this, be sure to give us a share. Thanks so much. Join us next time.
Masalama.